This forms an elimination tournament between the future leading swordsmen of the Cardenas family, and among all of them, one man obviously excels. He's already defeated dozens of his brothers, and now he's opposing a girl who can hardly keep up. She fights to deflect his blows, loses her balance, and soon understands the reality. Her brother is on a totally different plane. She can't anticipate a single move, and just like everyone before her, she is defeated. At the end, he tells her she never had a chance. To him, everyone here is feeble, unworthy of bearing the family name. Watching from above, the senior sword masters are astounded. This year's generation is powerful, but one name rises above the rest: William. He's viewed as the top heir. Even the second and fourth strongest fighters couldn't defeat him together. And really, it's no shock. William comes from the direct bloodline, the purest descent of the family. Regarding talent, no one can match. And the branch families? They are simply born lesser. At least that is what everyone believes. The crowd is already prepared to name William the next head of the family. But then the current family head intervenes. He instructs them to wait because there is someone else who has caught his attention: Leonard. In just a few days, he rose from rank 381 to the top 25 without losing any match. And unlike William, he is from a branch family. That alone makes his rise extraordinary. After all, the Cardenas family is known as the mightiest sword clan, home to 7 knighthoods, and the most elite of them all, the Golden Dragon Knighthood, is composed of direct descendants, warriors said to carry dragon blood, born with golden eyes and blonde hair. And now, the two finally confront each other. William steps forward, regarding Leonard as if he had already come to surrender. But he is not going to hold back, not even slightly. As a powerful aura erupts around him, William makes it clear. He is about to show Leonard what happens when someone from a branch dares to challenge the direct bloodline. Their fight takes off in an intense exchange of skill and strength, swords striking against one another. Despite being the best among the Cardenas trainees, William is merely being played with. Leonard does not even attack him and mainly dodges. It is almost as if Leonard is being guided by the spirit of a stronger, more capable sword master. Their fight continues with intense exchanges, attracting the attention of the instructors, who are surprised by Leonard's unique fighting style. William mocks his opponent for excelling at evasion. Leonard continues his evading maneuvers and lunges. Back with golden aura, the number 1 elite ranker attempts to use his aura blade, only for the youth to dodge them too, praising William for being impressive. He is treating William as though he were an amateur, all the while not even breaking a sweat, as Leonard realizes that his opponent lacks something fundamental. He lacks the judgment one develops when facing death, so he closes the gap between them instantly, belittling William for having reached his limit. The spectators watching express their astonishment. It is as if Leonard is a completely different person toying with his opponent, making the king of the trainees lose his composure. Instead of letting it continue, Leonard ends this man's suffering by delivering a decisive slash, knocking him unconscious with only a single counterattack. Though this kind of ability would have been impossible for his former self, he has finally recovered all his memories, because this man is the living reincarnation of the once mighty sword emperor Ren, whose sword had no equal. Hailed as the strongest sword emperor, Ren followed the path of the sword, cleaving the heavens with a swing of his blade, reaching a level where one cut could destroy mountains, granting him the title of the sword emperor with his own blade. But even reaching those heights could not satisfy this man, until he challenged the heavenly demon himself, believed to be the strongest being of their era. In other words, this is a battle between 2 supreme sword masters. The intense fight continued for days on end. Ren had to push himself to limits never seen before, surpassing the bounds of humanity. And the same fight managed to change the very landscape of the region in which it occurred. By the end of the battle, Samurai Gojo Satoru found himself exhausted, and under the blood-red infinite Tsukuyomi night sky, the heavenly demon stood tall over him. Ren was panting for his life, questioning why he could not win this fight when his swordsmanship had already reached perfection. That question of why always bothered him, because all this time, even after fighting for days on end, the Sword Emperor could not even cut the heavenly demon once. Responding with satisfaction, the untouchable heavenly demon explained that Ren had his fundamentals wrong, mocking him for never really understanding the function of the sword. The man had simply challenged him, staking his own life on the line, so even in the heavenly demon's eyes, Ren appeared to be magnificent, which is essentially the same thing the opponent said to him earlier. Anyway, the Sword Emperor's inexperience and lack of understanding of his blade became the very cause of his own demise. The suggestion that a man like him, the Sword Emperor, lacked the fundamentals is mere provocation in Ren's eyes. It seems like condescension, but truly, the heavenly demon can only remember Ren as a weak stray dog who tried to challenge him to such limits. What's more, the heavenly demon strongly believed that with this weak defeat of the Sword Emperor, he will be remembered as a loser as his final legacy. The heavenly demon left him to die, once more mocking him as the so-called Sword Emperor of the world. It's not like Ren could do anything either. He just collapsed to the ground, realizing how everything ended so quick and easy for him. Feeling utterly disrespected and regretful of the way he swung his sword, he wished for a second chance, a reality where he could change the outcome of this match, wondering if that would allow him to cut the heavenly demon. And that's how the legacy of the Sword Emperor, Ren, ended. One symbolized as the ultimate defeat, but also, at the same time, a new legend was born and replaced the old one in an unexpected turn of events. The next time he opened his eyes, the man was inside the Cardenas family training program. Leonard frantically woke up on the ground wearing number 381 as his starting position. Ren had just taken over his body, startled by what had happened or why he kept remembering the same dream again. His buddies were really worried this time, thinking that this person might have actually died for real, while Leonard continued to remain in shock, as if he was missing a part of himself he didn't know about. Their fight resumed from the part where they left off. One person charged a heavy punch against him, hoping to get at least some payback for the sudden scare he left them with. Leonard didn't even think about his next move and simply reacted on pure reflex, catching the punch before it could even reach his face. The sudden catch stunned not only his opponent, but also the rest of the group. Even Leonard could not comprehend at the time why his body began to react the way it did. He had not even formed a thought. It was as if he had gained perfect reflexes without effort. With the punch still caught in his hands, the other person decided to take serious measures and drew his wooden sword. He wanted to humble the youth who he thought caught the punch by luck, so he raised his weapon up high and began swinging it at him. Leonard evaded the first swing with a casual weave, shocking the youth once more, proving that the reflexes were not just for show. Even now, Leonard could not believe that his body was reacting on its own, as if he was not even controlling it. Retaliating accordingly, Leonard used his own blade and decided to strike this person by hitting him in the abdomen. The attack was so powerful that it knocked the opponent to the ground with a sharp pain. The rest of the group quickly realized that this was not just luck, and instead began thinking that maybe this blonde youth was intentionally toying with them the first time. The current Leonard brimmed with immense power. The same youth who could not even fight back earlier had now transformed into a completely different person. The other batchmates were panicking, but one of them tried to muster some courage, questioning what was so special about Leonard when they were the ones overwhelming him earlier. Drawing his blade, both of them decided to double team and attack him together. Watching these people attack him, Leonard realized what was going on. He had experienced these situations before. It was here that he remembered the portion of his memories from his time as Sword Emperor Ren, and now that he had total control, he started with a powerful kick to one person's stomach, followed by another aerial swing and slash on the other person, which may or may not have actually killed him. Leonard did what he needed to do and took care of these opponents, recalling how he had always had these same strange dreams. Dreams of a man with long flowing hair under the crimson sky wielding his sword. All this time he felt pressured and tormented by those same dreams, causing him an identity crisis to the point training felt like a burden. But after all this time, he finally understands what is going on. The same man he keeps dreaming about, and the one whose memories appear inescapable to him, is Sword Emperor Ren from a different world. And he is the reincarnation of Ren, brought here to this world through an unexpected event, placing him in a different body. Leonard finds it difficult to believe that reincarnation is actually real, questioning if his final wish allowed Ren to actually reach the heavens, granting him the second chance. Though a sense of frustration lingers over him, because his body is sore just from swinging his weapon, showing that he is physically inexperienced right now. It is also because the current Leonard has been training in the Cardenas style, but from now on, he will be correcting that by changing his swordsmanship method. Thanks to his in-depth knowledge of his previous life's techniques, Leonard intends to create a limitless ceiling of strength for himself, not concerned about the person who helped his reincarnation dream come true. The old him, the most revered Sword Emperor, could not achieve those dreams, but now as Leonard Cardenas, he will carve out a different future, using everything to his advantage to become the strongest Sword Emperor in this world, surpassing even his old legacy. Setting that thought aside, we return to the training grounds of the Cardenas family. It is reported that 3 youths are so badly injured that they are regarded as unfit for field training from now on. All of the top rankers and direct descendants do not care much about the students they lost, believing it will not affect their strength, and that field training should continue without issue. issue. But that is the interesting part, because when these people learn that the youth responsible for defeating 3 students is actually number 381, they are shocked. Even more is the fact that he defeated them all alone. The ranks of the students he beat are also mentioned: 329, 257, and 133. All of them should be far more powerful than someone like Leonard, so it surprises them how a completely useless student managed to defeat them. After all, if a talented youth like that joined another faction, the dynamics would shift considerably. The youth who brings up this point is quickly humbled by William, who strikes him for speaking something so vile. The number 1 ranker has a fragile ego and refuses to care about some low-ranking person. After hearing about 381's performance, William orders his men to gather a group and bring Leonard here by force, having a desire to see for himself if the youth is truly that special. Another flashback sequence from the heavenly demon battle follows. The man decided to leave a few notes for the dying emperor in case he ever had the chance of being reincarnated. He criticized Ren's inability to reach higher realms merely because Ren developed his foundation of the internal arts much later than he should have. Of the 5 elements, the foundation and one's balance for them remain crucially important, and if only he had cultivated that foundation at a younger age, things would have been far different. This is a critical piece of advice that Ren held on to, and now that he is reincarnated as Leonard, his ultimate priority is to build his foundation at an early age. This is demonstrated while he is practicing meditation. If he could begin the development of his foundation at his young age instead of his prime, reality would be far different. Leonard's first objective is to create a constitution or a vessel that can handle mana right now. His deep concentration is evident as pillars of mana swirl around him, and it produced results because Leonard succeeds without difficulty. Back in his time as Ren, he struggled far too much with managing his internal power, which only makes him question what kind of powerful family the Cardenas bloodline is for making it look so easy. The scene shifts to the cafeteria hall where students are collecting food. Leonard eats and enjoys his meal, finding it a rich taste. Diet is one of the most important aspects of one's growth periods, so he does not intend on holding himself back from any meals. Out of nowhere, his number is called out, and a large person looms behind him. The large person comments on the fight Leonard had yesterday, questioning if the youth is more hot-headed than he appears. And even though the slender blonde typically eats lightly, right now he is consuming the whole meal heartily. Speaking of size, the large person here is actually ranked number 7 now. Previously, he was at 8. It really surprises him how this person could get into the top 10 ranking. He is even boasting how he managed to seize the position the other day, which confirms to Leonard that higher positions can be seized through battles. Aside from that, he asks the large person what he wants. Rank number 7 assures him that he has something important to share, expressing how the atmosphere around has been nothing but tense as of late. The highest ranking students are making moves to expand each of their influence. Number 1, 2, and 4 are active most notably. But this is not anything new to Leonard, who gets up and confirms that he already knows. Blonde hair and golden eyes typically signify the direct descendants of the Cardenas family anyway. He speaks a bit casually, and though the large person looks like a brute, he actually wants Leonard to be cautious as people around are watching closely. Leonard does not want to hear a long explanation and demands him to just get to his point. Number 7 is starting to think that this person has definitely changed for acting so different as of late. Frustrated, Number 7 states that there is a major reason why these top rankers are pursuing expansions lately. The point is that low rankers will not survive without unity. Again, Leonard does not get the point of all this or where this is going, so the 7th ranker further shares that more than 50 people have already surrendered to the influence of the top rankers. After all, there is no rule restricting direct descendants from forming groups or factions of their own. And now for the main point, apparently rank number 3 is actually intent on building a faction of his own alongside 7 and 9, and he is here to extend the invitation to Leonard to help them. Completely expected, Leonard gives a firm refusal, assuring that he does not belong in any group, but he is very happy to know what is going on as it will help him later on. Number 7 is genuinely surprised how this person intends on surviving on his own, because refusing an offer like this sounds unreasonable for his rank. Ignoring his bad breath, Leonard goes outside to get some fresh air before running into another unexpected encounter. 2 students greet him with mockery, questioning if he enjoyed his meal. These 2 are notably high on the list of rankers, and the duo is here to forcibly take the youth, asserting that their leader, number 1, is actually interested in seeing Leonard. Acting arrogant, the person states that he is doing a favor by forgiving him for the incident. And since the youth already refused the 7th ranker's invitation, number 1 is interested in seeing Leonard all the more. The surprising thing is how quickly news already reached William's ears, because just a while ago, Leonard was having a chat with his acquaintance. Even though this whole matter seems like a minor argument, Leonard finds it quite complicated in this Cardenas family. Again, Leonard acts indifferent toward these people and tells them to leave because he is not interested. That arrogant attitude does not help him because these people charge at full speed to forcibly make him submit, treating him like a low-ranking student. Leonard simply stands there firmly while asserting his dominance, and within seconds dashes right into the first person, avoiding the first strike to prepare a punch. With their distance inches apart, Leonard readies his strike and delivers a powerful cross attack barehanded. His opponent is baffled how this person is not even using his sword to fight them. And by the way, Leonard's previous strike already deflected this person's sword, shattering it. Now that he is left wide open, Leonard goes in for a decisive punch, slamming his fist into this person's stomach, causing his ranker badge to fly off. Even though the youth is not a top ranker, Leonard is still impressed that he has decent skill, which shows promise in the legacy of the Cardenas bloodline. Leonard looks down at the other person, mocking him for not understanding that they are outmatched against him. Instead of backing out, the other person thinks he is still going to win because he is a few ranks higher than the one who was just defeated. He is ranked 98 on the leaderboard. Leonard is really curious to see how he will end up, so he goes for the speed offensive by moving right behind his back. This person is utterly left helpless because before he could even turn around, the fight ends, knocking his badge on the ground. At the time of this fight, one person is observing everything from the window, shocked that the youth is practically toying with people much higher on the list. It makes him wonder if Leonard intentionally hid his strength all this time, even though the youth's background seems so clear. And by the way, Leonard is so perceptive that he managed to lock direct eye contact with this observer, a way to warn him that he knows he is being watched. The observer of the Fugureo trainees quickly writes down his notes, reflecting that there may be a few upsets this year. He writes notes on 381's file and hopes for the youth to prove his worth in the future. And by the way, now that he has defeated number 98, Leonard's new ranking is officially under 100. The fight caused a commotion, causing several students to rush toward the training grounds. Most of number 1's followers are rushing to find this person and capture him, while they encounter number 2 along the way. The woman is shocked that there is so much attention and urgency around this Leonard figure and that he has been creating waves among the ranks. This is Verita Cardenas, the second behind William. She goes up to the training grounds shortly after this incident, only to discover that every person that number 1 sent to take down the new 98 is already defeated. She thinks perhaps Leonard beat only one of them until a person is thrown in her direction, knocked out from a distance. Meanwhile, Leonard is standing there. Another person tries to approach him from behind, begging him to stop being so difficult and just join their group already. Leonard reiterates his answer. He refuses to serve someone who is as foolish as the current number 1. Leonard is easily handling rank number 25 as if it is no big deal. Having achieved another victory, Leonard takes the badge of the 25th and claims his new position. Seizing her opportunity to start a conversation with him, Verita congratulates the young talent for being promoted. Leonard questions if she is one of them, to which she declines and emphasizes that she can merely sense the ever-flowing constitution inside his body. It is magnetic and pulsing with flowing energy, making it easy to explain how he got that rank. Leonard finds her sensory abilities quite interesting, questioning if she has some kind of clairvoyance to her abilities. Because if she can sense this kind of energy, then Verita must at least possess some kind of mind's eye trait. The mind's eye allows a person to detect and appraise someone's talent, making it an excellent scanning tool against higher-level opponents. It is a powerful trait, no doubt helping secure her position as rank 2. Meanwhile, she is just confused why he is determined to refuse any group participation, arguing that it is going to be impossible to handle training all alone. By the way, the man himself, William, shows up to their encounter, believing that it is disloyal of Verita to leak confidential information. This is the man who has been causing problems for Leonard. William treats his underlings like worthless pieces of trash who could not even manage basic tasks like this. For Leonard, the one notable thing he finds about William is how the number 1 ranking has an incredible presence. Leonard goes up to have a proper standoff against this man. He had been curious all this time about what made the number 1 ranker so special. Showing no fear, Leonard even challenges him to a duel here and now, an invitation that angers William because this person is treating him like a joke. The scene causes Verita to laugh, finding the audacity of this newcomer really interesting, especially when he has the courage to say something like that to a direct descendant of the family. Verita makes it clear that number 25 does not intend on having an allegiance with any faction for their training session. William can see that and affirms the same. He just came here to personally see what is so special about the youth. The top ranker leaves with a threatening remark, emphasizing that Leonard will soon come to regret trying to provoke him. Leonard shows no reaction because he does not really care. What is important to him is the knowledge that there is certain information only these descendants possess. That there is some kind of hidden training where faction creation is involved. This suggests that there is going to be some kind of joint training event tomorrow. In the next scene, Senior Instructor Bruno asks to confirm if the trainees are all gathered. His subordinate assures him that everything is clear except the arrival of an unusual rancor. The senior instructor is intrigued with this sudden change and inquires for more details, so his subordinate shares that the new youth is training alone without any intentions of taking part in a group. Bruno finds it strange for someone to take reckless means, even though the point of the field exercise is specifically to conduct a test in the great forest of the Cardenas family. This same training requires the gathering of food and shelter to become self-sufficient in one's ability. The rankers were also informed of a limit on faction size, which led to the creation of 4 factions in total. The largest and strongest group is led by William, the number 1 talent, and the second largest group is paired with Verita. Squad C is actually made up of trainees that do not have direct ties to the family. And finally, Squad 4 intends to function on strategic maneuvers. There is also a final Squad E, led by someone who gathered everyone that was left, the ones who could not find a group to join. All the other factions aside, there is the solo existence of Leonard Cardenas, the youth who is determined to act alone as his own Squad F. Leonard observes the state of the training grounds. The training area is immensely vast, and in order to take complete advantage of this environment, his priority is to build an early base. Suddenly, the senior instructor comes up personally to meet with the young candidate, questioning if that is all the luggage he intends to pack. After all, the youth has not prepared anything more than water and biscuits, which makes Bruno question if the youth is being naive in his approach. Leonard assures the instructor that he will be fine, because the whole point of this training is to become self-sufficient after all. The self-sufficient part of the program is a false cover. The real purpose underneath is to create a setting where participants can steal each other's badges and prove their worth. A third person joins the conversation, intending to speak with number 25 in private, arguing that venturing in the forest alone is extremely dangerous for anyone. So the calculated and strategic mind of Squad D has come here for a formal proposal, requesting Leonard to join their group. Dylan Cardenas thinks highly of himself, but Leonard has the same response for him as he did with everyone else: to leave. Leonard believes that this person is one of those who act nice at the front, but will have no trouble betraying others later on. Dylan pushes forward, arguing that everyone else has formed enormous factions, so it does not really seem like a bad offer to accommodate Leonard into a group either. Leonard humbles his arrogance, assuring the youth that he does not owe anyone an explanation for acting alone, and that he will not be accompanying Squad D on their outing. The remark angers Dylan greatly, who can finally understand why even someone as powerful as number 1 despises Leonard, and to Dylan, this is a dangerous way to live in their family. The squad leader assures him that Leonard will not submit with their conversation, so perhaps he has to teach a lesson in humility through combat to gain an advantage. Without wasting a moment, this person charges at full speed, moving quickly from spot to spot to attack Leonard and force him to join the squad. The hit that was supposed to land on Leonard ends up stirring up dust and throwing the person off balance instead. This person is stunned how Leonard managed to dodge that hit, while Leonard merely flanks him, calling his footwork terrible. That said, Leonard defeats the person with a powerful technique. Interestingly, the fainting Dylan reflects that he did not sense any kind of killing intent from his opponent when he swung his sword, which makes him wonder if this youth has already become some kind of highly skilled fighter at this age. The attack knocks him to the ground, knocking Dylan unconscious, while senior instructor Bruno is impressed, praising the youth for his smooth moves. At the same time, he explains that Leonard's promotion will not count before the match, and that it is best for him to depart for the test already. Having no objections against the instructor's words, Leonard senses just how powerful his teacher is for concealing his presence like that too. The most surprising part is that Leonard thinks that even if he was the Sword Emperor run from his previous life, he would still find it a difficult battle to face against someone of Bruno's caliber. All of these recent observations make it very clear that the Cardenas family is truly the greatest swordmaster clan to exist. Even at such a young age, they have crafted outstanding talent, producing one prodigy after another, which means there has to be some kind of secret dwelling within their bloodline. Disregarding that mysterious secret, Leonard moves ahead to continue on with the training test, hoping to secure his advantageous hideout first. Out in the field, number 25 is making significant impact. Instructor Bruno wants an in-depth understanding of the situation, and learns about some kind of early clash. Apparently, William's group attack Squad C the moment they entered the forest without caring about building a base. Squad C was defeated as a consequence because they did not expect this turn of events. Their leader, number 3, managed to narrowly escape while the rest of the squad was defeated. This strategy impresses Bruno because it is clear that number 1 is just as sharp as he is strong. There is a proper difference among their ranks. ranks. Instructor Bruno also reflects that William thought strategically with Group A's overwhelming numbers, thinking that it would be a problem to gather early supplies. That is why he used that very numerical advantage to create a powerful attack, shattering the expectations of Class C and leading an early assault. This defeated the whole team, and it was not just a display of strength but an outsmarting strategy. Next, Bruno asks for updates on Squad B and D. Apparently, C, B, and D have joined together for an alliance, since they share the common goal of opposing number 1. It is a good decision to rally their forces. The intelligent play here is promising in Bruno's eyes. Next, he asks about the young lady who is supposed to govern the remaining groups. Instructor Colin is asked for her side of updates. She knows that Group E has not made significant progress, but the most interesting report comes from the solo player from Group F. Colin does not even know where to look because Leonard actually noticed her presence and called out her name. Colin's concealment technique, the same one regarded as the highest among all the instructors, failed against this young boy. Leonard addressed her directly and wanted to ask a question, while she was stunned and surprised by the youth's ability to detect her. Descending from her position, Colin came up to assist the youth with his question. Leonard explains the situation up ahead, expressing how this cave seems to have a beast as its master, but he wants to use it as a sleeping camp for himself. His question is to know if the beast residing here is personally tamed by the Cardenas family, because he did not want to recklessly kill it without question. Also, the beast is revealed to be a magnificent azure wolf, and Colin can see right away that it is actually a dire wolf properly trained by the Cardenas family. At the same time, she does not have any expectations of a typical trainee to try and defeat a dire wolf by himself. Intrigued by the limitations of this young boy, Colin decides to let it pass and intends to intervene in case the youth requires her help. She encouraged him directly, stating that it is a part of the training, and that if he defeats the creature, he can use its home as a sleeping or food storage place. Of course, Colin does not really think Leonard is capable of defeating the wolf in the first place. The monster growls before, charging for the first strike, putting Leonard in a defensive position, praising the animal for its precise movements. He continues speaking and assures that he will go easy. So what Leonard does is deliver a punch to the creature's belly instead of cutting it down, believing that it is going to earn him a good sleeping position. The dire wolf winces, like a puppy before backing off. A mere trainee has intimidated the creature, causing it to position itself and release a ferocious roar. Leonard tries to comprehend the beast's action, wondering if it has lost its senses or perhaps even reason to fight. But if he himself holds himself back, it is possible that getting hurt will cause him and the instructor trouble. So this time, when Leonard dashes in, he has the intention of injuring the beast, and his quick maneuver actually strikes the beast on its mouth. One small problem: it is not enough to take the wolf down and nearly results in Leonard's arm getting injured. Leonard refuses to go down at the hands of a dire wolf and retaliates with a knee strike straight to its mouth. Watching this one-sided fight, Colin is at a loss for words, realizing that this youth is not in danger. He is the one in control. At this point, Colin is wondering if she should save the wolf from the powerful trainee. Anyway, the fight is over, and it rightfully earns Leonard his new spot. But after defeating the dire wolf so decisively, he actually turns the creature into his pet. One command to sit causes this creature to sit obediently, even roll on command too. These two have formed an excellent bond. Colin is questioning what just happened. She cannot figure out how one trainee possesses so much decisiveness in his maneuvers that someone like him managed to defeat a dire wolf all by himself. She expresses that he tamed the monster as part of his abilities, so the bond is justified, except the wolf will not be allowed to be used in combat. But movement is fine. This makes things much more convenient for Leonard, who assures the instructor that he will not be using it to cause any harm. Leonard regards one of his techniques to be rather useful and decides to properly train his new companion. They go off together to find some food, but interestingly take notice of a sudden fork in the road, signifying the splitting of two groups. Leonard instructs the wolf to grab anything on his side of the road if it is useful, and so they both scatter in different directions for resource hunting. That aside, the scene returns to William, who has just defeated another party, presenting himself as a powerful figure on the battlefield. The number 1 ranker frankly treats these people as candidates in the family that are beyond saving. More than that, he is annoyed that they get to hold such badges, and assures the defeated victim that he will properly eliminate the youth on their next encounter. Even an entire group of Group E collaborating against one man, attacking him from every direction, was not enough to beat him. In other words, William is that much stronger, and these people never stood a chance. This person thinks they are all weak and that they have nowhere to go. Though William spared them the first time, another attack could prove to be their death. The leader, despite his despair, tries to encourage his friends to pull themselves together so that they might have a chance to survive. Except that is when they all look in terror, because just behind them is a huge bear that does not look like it wants to be friendly. They are about to become its prey, except their savior comes along in the form of Leonard. Leonard dives and kills the bear with a single strike to its head, saving his friends. The Group E leader is amazed that the solo operator number 25 came to save them. Despite being saved, this person calls him heartless for taking their food for days to come, but it is not like they ever stood a chance against the bear in the first place. Party E is already calling him heartless, while Leonard greets them with respect and asks if they are all right. This makes them realize that he is actually kind, because Leonard turns around pretending non-interest in taking their badges. Leonard only intervenes because he thought it was a serious threat after all. He does not want to win here. It is part of his training to complete his resources and continue from there. If he actually wanted to win, then he would be picking better opponents than this group. The leader of the group is impressed with his ability to climb the ranks and thinks he owes the rancor. He believes that it is a huge favor that he is sparing them, even though Leonard does not share any intention of making it seem like that. Suddenly, another lingering presence terrifies them, because from out of the forest emerges the same dire wolf. These people think they are about to get attacked, but it is surprising when the dire wolf acts like a puppy and returns with an interesting find. Leonard is confused because the person he has brought is actually the injured number 3. The state she is in is bad, but she can at least survive. While they are terrified of the dire wolf, Leonard is calmly observing number 3's injuries, shocked that a fighter of her caliber could end up like this. He thinks it is probably the other rankers who got the best of her, so he asks if the leader of this group wants to truly live. To make sure they survive, Leonard offers a trade. He is happy to give them the bear to help them survive in the long run, and also leaves the advice for them to not get caught up in numbers senselessly. By the time he leaves the impression through his actions that Leonard is actually a good person. In the next scene, number 3 wakes up, questioning where she is. She checks her arm. It is all patched up, which means someone offered critical treatment. A voice calls out to her, driving her to quickly get up and attack the person it is coming from. Leonard blocks the kick as if it did not affect him, and is impressed that her leg is doing better. He urges her to rest up while she demands to take her badge. It is a little confusing because Leonard looks down at her chest, hinting that the badge is already there. This makes the girl flustered for her premature attack, and so she confesses her thanks for being saved, arguing that she will not be offering her badge. It is good because Leonard never intended on taking it in the first place. He just wants her to eat this meal and enjoy herself. The girl is moved by his generosity. Ren used to be an adult in his previous life, so he feels it is a responsibility to feed any person at any point. He then asks about how she got those injuries in the first place. The girl declines, running into monsters. A furious expression takes over her because she explains how they were ambushed by William's group shortly after setting up base. The situation was over for them before it even began. The fight was one-sided, and not even a number 3 ranker could do anything to stop it. Leonard understands that it is easy to see how one side dominates the other. It is a matter of numbers with different strategies involved. William played the situation well and deployed an ambush, and for youngsters who are inexperienced in combat and strategy, forming tactics is no easy feat. He also learns that the injured arm is thanks to number 1's doing, because he is even stronger than Verita at number 2. Leonard tries to comfort her by saying her squad simply lacked the strength to contest the opposing team, but she is frustrated that they did not even get a chance to fight back. It impresses the former Sword Emperor that this girl has incredible fighting spirit despite her devastating loss. This only shows that she will end up becoming an incredible warrior in the future. But for now, things are looking bad, and Group B alongside D are destined to fall too. She thinks that it is possible for the rest to form an alliance, but Leonard argues that numerical superiority will not help them in this case either. Even if multiple alliances are formed, Squad A will simply gain more victories and win that way. Of course, there is also the chance that William foresees the alliance and already has a backup plan. Really surprises Leonard that these youths are deploying high-level strategies just to outsmart each other. Leonard crafts a proper plan to target William's group's weak point. His goal is to put all forces to pressure number 1. After all, the squad circles around him, so if they can defeat the main driving force, the core and pillar of the team, the rest will quickly disintegrate into an unorganized group, leaving chaos for the largest faction. The good thing is that this girl is already determined to seek revenge, so he asks her to trust him all the more on this plan. Despite her hesitation, she decides to declare him her squad leader, offering full support to his cause. The forest path is usually a quiet place, but today it is crowded with the heavy packs and disciplined formation of Squad A. Because they are the Academy's elite, an air of certain victory follows them as they march. William Cardenas, the top-ranked student, leads the group alongside a black-haired peer who advises him to stay patient. The elite student argues that as long as they maintain their current pace, the win is guaranteed. Sentiment William echoes by noting the results will be clear very soon. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts. William senses a hidden presence nearby. He immediately signals for his troops to halt. Standing firmly on the path with his wooden training sword, Leonard's rival addresses the forest. He acknowledges that hiding is a wise move for the weak, but suggests that surrendering is more prudent when there is no hope of winning. He demands that whoever is in the bushes show themselves. Responding to the call, Dylan Cardenas emerges calmly from the greenery with his squad. He is surprised that William noticed their presence, calling him a lion with a sharp sense. Verita Cardenas walks up to join William's side, though she comments on Dylan by suggesting his sense is more like that of a dog. William looks down on the lower-ranked students with disdain, claiming those at the top can easily read the thoughts of the others. He insults Dylan's intelligence and expresses shock that someone of such a low level would dare to stand before him, calling him a disgrace to the family name. William turns his attention towards Verita, asking if she always enjoys acting so arrogant. She simply draws her wooden blade with a smile, comparing William to a peacock rather than a dog. This comment causes William's temper to flare, and he points his weapon at her, claiming his attitude is simply the dignity she lacks as a woman. The tension breaks as both groups collide in a violent burst of speed. The impact of their wooden weapons is so intense it practically cracks the earth. Seeing an opportunity, a female senior from Squad E leads a secondary charge from the flank, ordering her units to defeat Squad A. In response, Number 5 yells for his elites to tighten their defense and hold the line. The forest erupts into a massive chaotic melee as Squads F and E swarm the elite defense line in a fierce battle. Within the chaos, Verita struggles to hold her own against William's overwhelming power. Every time she blocks, her wrists throb from the sheer weight of his blows. She tries to use her mind's eye to find a weakness, but William appears as a distorted image that her special sight cannot process. He is simply too fast and too strong. With a single hand, the top-ranked student overpowers her weapon. Dylan tries to jump in from behind to save her, but William reacts instantly. He catches Dylan's sword with his bare hand, cracking the wood before delivering a powerful kick that sends Dylan flying. Verita sees William's back exposed after the kick and lunges forward, thinking she finally has an opening. However, she freezes mid-air when she notices his posture is too deliberate. She realizes too late that he left his back open on purpose to lure her in. William moves with blinding speed, striking her down before she can land her attack. He mocks her, noting that even her special eyes are not perfect since her movements look slow to him compared to Number 25. With a powerful final blow, he strikes her down to the ground. Standing over the kneeling Verita, William declares himself the winner of the training session. He tells her to admit defeat as he believes no one can win against him. Just as he claims victory, a voice interrupts, calling his judgment premature. Leonard walks into the clearing casually, dragging the unconscious body of Number 5 by the shirt. Verita is shocked to see him, but Leonard simply tosses the elite student at William's feet. William is stunned and demands to know what the person he considers inferior is doing there. Leonard explains that he is simply returning the favor for what William did to his squad. When William laughs and says Leonard should not even have a squad, Leonard calmly explains that while he did not have one at first, things have changed. Loud roar echoes from the forest, drawing William's attention to the hill. A massive army of students from Squads F and E is charging down toward Squad A's position. Leonard explains that this is the uprising of the people William deemed worthless. A flashback reveals how this happened. Earlier, Squad E had successfully hunted a giant wolf, which gave them the resources to survive. Leonard and Number 3 approached the celebrating group to offer an alliance. Although the leader of Squad E felt they were too weak to help, Leonard challenged that mindset. He told them not to be bound by their rank numbers, as they all received the same rigorous Cardenas training. Leonard's logic is that since their growth speed is roughly the same, numbers are just labels. He points out that while only a few people manifest unique traits, the base potential of most students is nearly identical. He uses himself and the blue-haired girl as examples, showing how she rose from a branch family, and he rose from the bottom through sheer effort. He speaks to the hesitant leader, explaining that their problem is not a lack of strength, but a lack of courage and the heart to believe in themselves. By extending his hand in partnership, Leonard convinced them to join him in taking down Number 1. Back in the present, Number 3 stands on a rock and leads the charge, telling the students to seize victory for the sake of the man who believed in them. William is displeased that she would team up with people he considers inferior, but she rejects his view. She recalls how Leonard caught her kick with his bare hand and explains that his movements are far more refined than William's. She did not team up with an inferior. She followed someone stronger. She points out that while William might be strong, wrong. His squad is currently being defeated by her people. Seeing the situation turn, Verita starts laughing. She decides to surrender and asks to join Squad F instead. Dylan follows suit, dropping to one knee to show he would rather lose to Leonard than to William. William, left standing alone, becomes angry as his allies desert him. He tries to appeal to their family pride, but Leonard reminds him that everyone there carries the same blood. William's eye twitches with anger as he points his sword at Leonard, refusing to accept the situation. He demands a duel right then and there to prove the difference in their strength. Leonard does not flinch. He enters his own combat stance, with mana appearing around his blade. With a confident smile, he tells William to come at him, as he had intended to end the fight this way from the very beginning. Watching through a magical portal, the blonde commander wonders if the top-ranked student will hold his position, or if Leonard will turn the tables. As Leonard and his rival charge, the collision of their wooden swords creates a massive shockwave, signaling to the commander that he is witnessing the birth of a future captain. William immediately goes on the offensive, unleashing a barrage of heavy and rapid strikes that force Leonard into a purely defensive stance. The sheer power of these hits is enough to exhaust anyone's arms just from blocking, but Leonard remains focused. As they trade blows, William internally thinks the boy's movements are too easy to read for someone of his status. However, William suddenly shifts his style, swinging from a distorted and unnatural angle that catches Leonard by surprise. This unusual technique is exactly how William defeated the second-ranked student earlier, but as the fight continues, Leonard begins to adapt. The commander is impressed to see that Leonard is actually seeing through these complex techniques in real time. Is a feat that even the higher-ranked elites could not manage, especially for someone without an innate trait. By analyzing the force behind each strike, Leonard realizes that his opponent is not just relying on muscle. He deduces that William's secret trait is psychokinesis, an invisible power that allows him to put massive destructive force into swings from angles where a normal human should not be able to generate power. Because of this invisible advantage, William is able to defy common sense, launching attacks that would catch even an experienced trainee off guard. When the two blades lock in a stalemate, William realizes Leonard has figured out his secret. He is frustrated and demands to know why Leonard has been hiding such high-level strength all this time. Leonard does not give a verbal answer, choosing instead to let his sword work speak for him as a golden crest appears, symbolizing his readiness to fight like a true member of the House of the Sword Duke. In response, William escalates the fight by using his psychokinesis to launch long-range energy slashes. Leonard is momentarily shocked by the range of these attacks, acknowledging that the top rank was not just for show. As William prepares a massive aura of blue energy to finish the fight, Leonard realizes that his current body is too weak to match that raw external power directly. He also knows he should not draw too much attention by using his own forbidden techniques, so he decides the only solution is to rely on pure speed and precision to cut his rival down. Moving fast, Leonard dodges a strike that is powerful enough to shatter a tree. From the sidelines, Verita and Dylan watch in awe. Verita finally understands why she struggled so much against William earlier, realizing his invisible trait was masking his true movements. While Dylan initially thinks Leonard is just running away, the commander notices the truth. Leonard is actually cornering William on purpose, moving like a predator that is trapping its prey. Suddenly, Leonard appears deep within William's guard, surprised by how quickly the distance was closed. William can only watch in shock as Leonard delivers a decisive blow that causes a powerful impact. The impact sends the top student flying through the air, coughing up blood. As he lies in the crater, William feels a sense of true danger, seeing a vision of overwhelming killing intent behind Leonard. Eventually, Leonard lowers his sword and William admits defeat. While the other students are stunned into silence or complaining about lost bets, the atmosphere between the two rivals changes. William sits up and thanks Leonard. He explains that losing has finally freed him from the pressure of his father's expectations and his own obsession with being the strongest. He acknowledges it was a good match and shakes Leonard's hand in a sign of respect. The commander concludes the field training, satisfied with what he calls a great result. He notes that Leonard was the only one who truly understood the purpose of the exercise, which was about leadership and strategy as much as combat. While the team marvels at how Leonard turned the lower-ranked squads into a winning army, the commander orders them to prepare for the return trip. He also instructs to contact the main house, declaring that it is finally time for the coming-of-age ceremony. Later, under the vast starlit sky, Leonard spends his final night in the forest, sharing a quiet moment with the giant blue wolf. He gently strokes the creature's nose, explaining that he has to leave the following day and cannot take the beast with him. Sensing the wolf's sadness, he offers a bittersweet smile and promises that this is not a permanent goodbye. Since he intends to return once he is stronger, he encourages the wolf wolf to grow powerful enough to keep up with his future journey. As he walks away, the wolf lets out a series of howls toward the full moon, and Leonard resolves to finally give the creature a proper name when they eventually reunite. The scene transitions to the following day inside a moving carriage where the dynamic has shifted significantly. Despite their previous rivalry, William is now sitting with Leonard, while Dylan, Verita, and the girl number 3 occupy the opposite seats. The group is surprised to find themselves sharing a ride, but they explain their presence through a mix of curiosity and respect. Verita admits she followed the star of the training session, while Dylan simply wanted to speak with the man who climbed from the bottom of the ranks to the very top. William, though clearly irritated by the chatter, has focused his attention entirely on Leonard to discuss the next phase of their education. With the field training over, the descendants of Cardenas must now undergo the blood awakening ceremony. William explains that their family possesses unique internal organs that normal humans lack, and the ceremony is a ritual designed to activate them. This revelation explains why their previous training was limited to basic subjects. The real work begins only after these organs are functional. Once awakened, these manticores allow a person to manipulate energy with far greater freedom. This is also why the Academy banned external aids like spirit fruits or stones, as the focus must be on developing this internal power. The conversation reveals that upon completing this ceremony, the trainees will join the Young Dragon Knighthood. This is a specialized elite unit focused on real-world combat education and tailored curriculums for every student. Leonard is surprised to hear this, as the knighthood is not yet public knowledge. The elites explain that the manticores differ from person to person in both attribute and number. While a single core is considered the absolute best due to its extreme training efficiency, having more cores is seen as a significant burden, as every additional core requires exponentially more resources and focus to balance. Pentacore is viewed as the most difficult outcome, requiring 25 times the effort of a single core. Unfortunately, the ceremony reveals that Leonard is indeed a pentacore. While William takes pride in his rare single core status, Leonard realizes that his path will be perceived as a failure by his peers. He internally notes that the world views his bloodline talent as a disadvantage, even though his sword talent is exceptional. However, Leonard sees this as a hidden opportunity. Drawing on knowledge from his past life regarding the 5 elements, he understands that if he can harmonize these 5 cores into a single flow, he can reach heights that even a single core user could never imagine. Despite the stigma surrounding his core count, Leonard's performance catches the eye of Commander Fabian of the Young Dragon Knighthood. When Leonard enters the Grand Hall, Fabian is immediately impressed by the boy's martial presence, noting that he has reached a high level of completion without even using aura. Leonard calmly argues that true martial arts are built with the heart and body rather than just raw energy, a sentiment that causes the commander to laugh. Due to this impressive attitude and obvious skill, Fabian grants Leonard special grade status, insisting that talent matters more than core counts. As part of this special treatment, the commander gifts Leonard a spatial bag filled with supplies and grants him the rare right to choose his own training location. When Leonard asks for the place best suited for his current level, Fabian directs him to Calabagos. This remote, rugged island is known as a wilderness so dangerous that even veteran knights often give up there. It is a place filled with powerful monsters and a brutal environment, but Leonard accepts the challenge. He knows that the difficulty of pentacore training is simply a matter of using the right method, and the isolation of the island is the perfect place to elevate his elemental cores in secret. The journey ends as Leonard steps through a magical portal and arrives in the dense forests of Calabagos. As he begins to navigate the giant trees with his supplies on his back, a mysterious black-haired man in a green cloak appears silently behind him. The man introduces himself as Bradley, a high-ranking senior knight from the Basilisk Squad. Leonard politely introduces himself, prompting Bradley to lead him deeper into the forest to a more suitable location. As they walk, Bradley explains that the island is populated by apprentice knights and advises Leonard to show respect to his seniors, though he notes that a specific rule prevents these older students from interfering with first-year rookies. For this reason, Leonard realizes he does not necessarily need to be intimidated by the higher-ranking residents. Bradley eventually outlines the schedule for the coming year, explaining that the first 6 months will be a period of protection under his watch, while the latter half will transition into an official training period. After that, Leonard will be expected to survive entirely on his own. Bradley leads Leonard to a room built into a tree, noting that while he usually would not provide housing, Leonard's special status earned him this accommodation. He clarifies that for everything else, such as food and supplies, Leonard must be self-sufficient by using spirit stones as currency. When Leonard asks about the difference between the 2 periods, Bradley explains that the protection phase involves active support, while the training phase focuses primarily on keeping other students students from attacking him. He also clarifies that while combat is expected, killing is strictly prohibited. Before Bradley leaves, Leonard asks for an appraisal of his provided resources. Upon checking the bag, Bradley is surprised to find 3,000 spirit stones and 100 elixirs for every attribute. He realizes that even for a top-ranked student, this is a significant amount of resources, suggesting that the commander is deeply invested in the boy's success. Bradley takes a moment to explain that spirit stones are mana-infused ores used to expand a cultivator's internal capacity. He notes that with this many resources, a single core user could reach the 10th stage, and even a pentacore user like Leonard should be able to reach the 5th stage. This leads into an educational breakdown of the 5 major realms of martial arts. The first is the body-tempering realm, where mana is used to expand the internal whole. The second is the external power realm, which involves releasing tempered mana as aura. The third is the transcendence realm, where a fighter refines their unique individuality. The fourth is the demigod realm, allowing one's internal imagery to manifest in the physical world. Finally, there is the divine realm, a level of godhood only ever achieved by the family ancestor Cardanus. Bradley becomes frustrated at the mention of skeptics who doubt the ancestors' legends, calling them misguided who would still be slaves if not for the ancestors' victory over the evil dragon. With the explanation finished, Bradley instructs Leonard to begin his mana cultivation and leaves him alone in the room. Leonard picks up a stone and realizes that since the ambient mana on the island is so thick, the act of absorption should not be too difficult. Fortunately, he is fortunate as he already mastered these techniques in his previous life. Through his past experience, his progress is very fast. In just a few hours, his muscles begin to glow with heat as he reaches the 3rd stage of cultivation. He calculates that he could reach the 5th stage in a single day, but he worries that such rapid growth will look suspicious to the instructors. Initially, he considers hiding in the mountains to mask his progress, but he changes his mind. He decides to embrace the perception of being an exceptional genius to ensure his potential is not wasted. Meanwhile, other apprentice knights outside his room notice his dedication, noting that he has not emerged for over a month and a half. They assume he is struggling to reach the 5th stage, which they consider the bare minimum for survival on the island. These seniors eventually head off to hunt, commenting on their own skill levels compared to the dangerous monsters nearby. After 6 weeks of seclusion, Leonard finally emerges and seeks out Bradley to request a real metal sword. Bradley is initially skeptical, accusing Leonard of becoming arrogant after some training. To prove his progress, Leonard delivers a powerful punch that shatters a massive boulder. Bradley is surprised to see that a pentacore user actually reached the 3rd stage in only a month. To test Leonard's resolve, Bradley releases a powerful red aura that momentarily overwhelms him, satisfied that the rookie has not lost his sense of caution. The senior knight hands over a sheathed sword. He warns Leonard that he must pay for the weapon with spirit stones if it is lost or broken. Armed with his new blade and a map, Leonard spots a location marked with a skull and decides to investigate. Under the light of a full moon, he arrives at the Forest of Remnants, where a swarm of monsters waits for him in the dark. These creatures are known as hobgoblins, rank E2 threats that fill the air with a grim presence. While one monster stares into the shadows, a sharp blade suddenly cuts through the air and splatters it with blood before it can even react. Leonard walks calmly through the woods with his sword, looking out of place in such an environment. He notes that no matter how cleanly he cuts down his enemies, the smell of blood is impossible to hide. When another hobgoblin lunges from the darkness, Leonard dashes forward with incredible speed. He cuts through multiple monsters simultaneously in a single fluid movement, promising to send them off without any unnecessary pain. As the last creature dies, a white diamond-shaped stone emerges from its chest. Leonard catches the object, explaining that when these monsters perish, they release their internal mana in the form of spirit stones. Standing in a clearing littered with the remains of his foes, Leonard realizes he has collected about 100 low-grade stones in one day. While this is a decent amount, he knows he cannot expect much more growth here since the Forest of Remnants is home only to weak monsters who have been pushed out of the natural food chain. Suddenly, he stops walking as he senses a shift in the atmosphere. He notices a scent that is entirely different from the goblins, identifying it as a gnoll, as the creature is not even trying to hide its presence. Leonard realizes the beast sees him as prey. He grips his hilt tightly and enters a low combat stance, just as a bipedal wolf creature armed with a massive iron axe leaps from the trees. Leonard invites the beast to attack him, and the monster responds with a loud roar while slamming its axe down with enough force to crush the earth. Although it looks like Leonard has been struck, he actually moves with such precision that he ends up standing behind the beast completely unharmed. The wolf creature growls with hunger, but Leonard remains focused, analyzing its posture. The beast lunges again, again, swinging its axe in a wide arc that creates a powerful shockwave. Leonard leaps into the air to dodge, realizing that the monster's ability to change its attack path mid-swing indicates a high level of power. He concludes that this is not an ordinary gnoll. While a typical gnoll is ranked at D1, this red-eyed beast has evolved further. Leonard identifies it as an Aginol, a ranked D3 threat. Instead of being afraid, a smile crosses his face as he realizes he finally has a chance for some worthwhile training. The Aginol charges with an aura trailing behind it, but Leonard moves with fluid grace, confident that such wild attacks will never hit him. He ducks under a horizontal swing that throws sparks against his sword and watches as the monster buries its axe deep into the dirt. Seeing the weapon stuck in the ground, Leonard spots an opening. Since the creature's thick muscles and bones protect its body, he targets the throat, which remains vulnerable. He lunges forward and delivers a powerful thrust into the beast's neck, triggering a powerful release of mana. As the dust settles, the Aginol disintegrates into particles, leaving behind a large purple crystal. Leonard is surprised to find a mid-grade spirit stone, which is worth 100 low-grade ones. He realizes that if creatures of this caliber live here, his internal energy will grow much faster than expected. He decides he has no more business in the forest for now and heads back to his quarters. Later, sitting cross-legged in his treehouse, Leonard absorbs the mana like a whirlpool. He is surprised to find he has already reached the 10th stage of body tempering. However, he sees a potential problem. If a Pentaker user like him achieves this level of success in only a few months, it will draw too much attention. He begins to wonder if there is a way to gather more resources without standing out. Outside his door, 3 senior apprentice knights in black uniforms have been checking on him for 3 months. They are worried as the boy has not stepped outside once. The gray-haired leader of the group explains that they are trying to be the first friendly faces the rookie meets. He believes that in a prestigious house like Cardenas, making a connection with a top-ranked student is a powerful political advantage that is worth more than any shallow tie with a lesser family. He pushes a blonde senior named Hayden toward the door, urging him to at least greet the boy. Hayden stumbles forward with a bucket of fish and ice, calling out to the rookie and warning him that he needs to eat to progress in his training. He peeks through a crack in the door and sees Leonard sitting in the shadows, but as there is not a single sound, Hayden becomes nervous and suggests they leave. Inside the room, Leonard watches them go and realizes they were simply checking the situation. However, he saw Hayden's face clearly through the gap in the door and forms a plan. He reasons that while his own rapid progress would be suspicious, no one would question the strength of a senior who has lived on the island for 10 years. Drawing on his memories as the Sword Emperor, Leonard decides to use a disguise technique called reverse utilization art. This skill allows him to manipulate his facial veins and muscles to change his appearance. Suddenly his features change until he has transformed perfectly into Hayden. He reflects on how strange it is to use a technique he once used as an emperor just to hide his power as a student. He prepares to inhabit Hayden's identity for a while, ready to move through the island without being noticed. 3 months have passed since Leonard began his isolation on Calabago's island, and he now finds himself navigating the dense fog of the Bone Mountain swamp. Through his time in this desolate place, he has learned that the primary rule for survival is acknowledging that he is completely alone. As every creature in this murky environment possesses deadly poison and the ability to hide in the greenery, Leonard must move with extreme caution. He understands that if he lets his guard down for even a second, he will be attacked by the reptilian lizardmen that hunt beneath the surface of the bubbling green water. A typical lizardman is a rank C threat, making them significantly more dangerous than the Aginol he faced previously. Since these monsters are numerous, he decides to end the encounter quickly to avoid being swarmed. He kicks off a tree branch with powerful force and dives toward a creature, cleaving through it in a single powerful blow. As he lands on a nearby rock, Leonard realizes the noise from his attack has accidentally disturbed a much larger presence. A large troll clutching a primitive spear emerges from the swamp and towers over him. Despite the monster's massive frame, the swordmaster stays composed, recognizing that the creature relies on crude movements and possesses no combat discipline. In an instant, he vanishes from view and appears behind the giant, finishing it with a single decisive blow. When the troll collapses, a multicolored spirit stone remains behind. After claiming the reward, Leonard calculates that he has collected a total of 1,500 mid-grade spirit stones. He determines that the mana accumulated within this haul is sufficient for him to advance to the next cultivation stage in a single attempt. Such a breakthrough across a major realm generates a tremendous surge of energy. At present, the protagonist has reached the 10th stage of the body refining realm and continues using his disguise to avoid drawing attention. Still, he understands that entering the next realm will release too much mana to conceal his advancement apart from the island's inhabitants. Because of this, he starts looking for an isolated location capable of containing the mana eruption while also shielding him from the environment. As he forces his way through a wall of hanging vines, he uncovers a concealed valley overflowing with vegetation. He is astonished to discover a large patch of rare spirit herbs whose mana absorption efficiency far surpasses that of spirit stones. He soon spots a heavily built troll standing guard over the area, yet before the creature can respond to his arrival, a gigantic white lycanthrope launches itself from a cliff and attacks the troll. Remaining hidden, Leonard observes as the two powerful beasts clash in a fierce struggle over territory. He is impressed to see the troll controlling dozens of tons of earth and rock, while the wolf-like creature evades every attack with lightning-fast speed. Understanding that this elemental confrontation will not end anytime soon, he notices a chance to move toward a cave entrance behind the battling monsters. He reasons that a troll powerful enough to guard this place must be protecting a remarkable treasure. The moment he steps into the dark passage, he realizes that all sounds from the battle outside disappear completely. This silence convinces him that the cave is the ideal location for his breakthrough, as its walls naturally suppress both sound and mana disturbances. Farther inside, the passage widens into an enormous chamber dominated by a majestic tree radiating brilliant golden light. Leonard is stunned by the vast number of mid-grade spirit herbs flourishing around its roots. As he reaches toward the tree, his hand meets an invisible mana barrier that ripples upon contact. This hidden shield explains why he was unable to detect the golden tree's overwhelming energy from outside the cave. He concludes that the tree is likely a high-grade treasure, or perhaps an even rarer existence beyond the troll's understanding. Just as the protagonist prepares to begin his breakthrough, he suddenly detects a presence behind him. The injured troll from the entrance has tracked him into the cave, blood still flowing from the wounds it received during its battle with the lycanthrope. Because of the cave's unusual mana-blocking effect, even the swordmaster failed to notice the creature until it was standing right behind him. Fortunately, the monster is severely exhausted and its injuries have not yet recovered. The troll lets out a furious roar and smashes its fists into the surrounding walls, triggering a collapse at the cavern entrance. Leonard immediately understands that the creature intentionally sealed the exit to prevent the intruder from escaping. Instead of feeling concerned, he sees the confined environment as the perfect setting for a decisive battle. Drawing his sword, he releases a powerful surge of mana around himself, prepared to defeat the Guardian and secure the cave for his advancement into the next realm. As the fight against the wounded troll begins, Leonard relies on his speed, constantly shifting positions and moving from place to place. He carefully analyzes the monster's attack patterns and wonders whether it has already noticed the enormous gap in speed between them. The troll, however, continues hurling rocks recklessly, which the protagonist narrowly avoids every single time. Leonard becomes increasingly aware that a single direct hit from one of the rocks could end the battle immediately in the troll's favor. With that in mind, he refuses to take reckless chances and decides that the fight must be concluded with one precise finishing blow. He puts this plan into action by delivering a carefully aimed sword strike, but the troll proves far more cunning than expected, surviving by raising earth and stone around itself as a shield. The creature wastes no time afterward and quickly counterattacks. It swings a fist engulfed in fire toward the place where Leonard had been standing, but the boy avoids the attack once more through his exceptional speed and keen reactions. By now, he is convinced that this monster had overwhelmed the lycanthropes because it possesses control over two different elements. Once the troll begins incorporating fire into its attacks, Leonard realizes that closing in recklessly is no longer a viable option. He continues evading while searching for another approach. As he watches the blazing flames, he understands that even the slightest contact could leave him severely burned and turned into the monster's next meal. His attention shifts toward discovering a weakness he can exploit if he intends to defeat the troll. Leonard studies the creature closely while avoiding every incoming attack, until he finally notices an opening near the troll's wounded leg. Without hesitation, he rushes forward, steps onto the monster's leg, then launches himself upward and slashes at its neck before retreating. As he spins backward in a smooth somersault, he immediately presses the attack again, charging forward and targeting the left side of the monster's chest, where a serious wound is already exposed. Leonard drives his sword directly toward the creature's heart, believing this strike may finally bring the battle to an end. However, just as the crystal within the creature starts to break apart, the troll suddenly erupts in flames. The protagonist instantly realizes that if the monster detonates at such close range, he will be badly injured. Unfortunately, there is no time to retreat, and he is caught in the explosion. The blast hurls him across the cavern until he slams violently into a tree, before falling to the ground and coughing up blood. Flames flames spread rapidly around him, and he soon realizes that the entire cave will be consumed by fire within minutes. He quickly weighs his options and immediately dismisses any possibility of receiving help from outside. At the critical moment, he remembers hearing that advancing into a higher realm could restore the body and replenish lost stamina. Without hesitation, he gathers the spirit stones scattered nearby and begins absorbing their energy, forcing himself toward a breakthrough into the next realm. His condition starts improving as the immense stream of energy flows through his body, but even that still seems insufficient. He rushes toward the nearby spirit herbs and begins swallowing them one after another, determined to absorb every trace of energy they contain. Once his preparations are complete, he sits down and enters meditation. The torrent of mana surpasses his limits as the pentacore begins spinning simultaneously. Leonard feels as though all of his energy is converging into a single force, as though his old heart is being replaced by an entirely new one. Against all odds, he succeeds in breaking through into the next realm at the last possible moment. Sometime later, Leonard sits in disbelief, realizing that not only has his pentacore merged into a single entity, but he has also advanced directly to the third stage of the external force realm. Many of his seniors have spent years struggling at the second stage, making his achievement seem truly remarkable. Every injury has vanished, and his mana now flows more smoothly than ever. He never expected that advancing by a single realm could produce such dramatic growth in such a short time. Yet one mystery remains: how he survived the massive explosion. The flames had not burned him in the slightest. Looking at the bright blue fruit before him, he finally understands the answer. The golden tree has lost its radiance, leaving only the solitary fruit behind. The immense energy emitted by the tree must have protected him from the destructive blast. Holding the fruit in his hands, he feels an unusual connection to it. Leonard begins to wonder whether he absorbed every trace of the mana that had been present there. After placing the fruit inside his bag, he decides to replant it somewhere safe in the future, believing he owes the tree for saving his life. He then rushes toward the cave entrance, knowing that any further delay could expose him as an imposter. The young man smashes through the collapsed rubble, completely unaware of how much stronger he has become after the breakthrough. A short while later, he arrives at the hut assigned to him and finally allows himself to relax. He concludes that his current appearance may raise suspicion among others, so he decides to pack his belongings first. After all, he was expected to be training inside the hut this entire time. The focus then shifts to the senior knights, where Hayden becomes alert as he notices the door of the protagonist's hut finally opening. Senior Ian quickly approaches him and introduces himself with a friendly smile. Leonard responds with his own introduction and then directly requests assistance with sword training. Ian argues that asking for sparring so abruptly is unreasonable. However, the protagonist remains resolute, stating that there is nothing he would prefer more at the moment than relying on capable seniors. The flattering words convince Ian instantly, and he agrees, while the other seniors react with visible annoyance at his enthusiasm. The brown-haired knight then instructs Leonard to follow him and learn from a true knight of Cardenas. Moments later, the senior is effortlessly overwhelmed as the boy secures a swift victory. He then goes on to defeat Gale as if it were child's play. Hayden is left stunned, questioning whether this is the real standard for new recruits these days. He barely manages to evade the incoming strike with his arm and instinctively activates his flame aura. Ian immediately calls him out for using mana against a junior, causing Hayden to freeze. The other seniors rush forward, concerned that Leonard may have been injured. However, the boy dismisses it as a minor issue, while the blonde-haired senior continues apologizing repeatedly. Looking at his smoking hand, the protagonist focuses more on the realization that even blocking a sword with mana can cause significant damage. This makes it clear that swordsmanship alone is not enough in this world. He smiles, thinking that he has been helping them train while still having much more to learn himself. Hayden remains confused upon seeing that his junior shows no anger. The protagonist calmly picks up his sword and remarks that he is looking forward to future training sessions, expecting them to be enjoyable. Eventually, they agree to conduct daily training near his hut. The following day, the atmosphere changes when Ian informs Leonard that training has been cancelled. Confused by the senior's equipment, he asks what is going on. Ian explains that a massive explosion recently occurred in the Bone Mountains marsh, requiring an official investigation. Internally, the protagonist feels relieved that they are unaware of his involvement. The senior continues, stating that a werewolf and a troll both reached the true demon realm level and clashed over territory. The troll was found completely burned into ash, while the werewolf's body was discovered skinned and lifeless. Ian assumes the two creatures likely killed each other, which allowed weaker monsters to begin occupying the area, forcing the knights to intervene. Since the protagonist is still considered a novice, he is ordered to remain behind and not participate. As compensation, Ian mentions that he has something for him. The senior places a pair of swords on the ground, explaining they will be useful for training. Leonard expresses gratitude for the gift. However, the shameless senior then casually asks him to return the favor once he achieves success in the future. The protagonist smiles and sees him off, while Ian reminds him to stay safe, noting that all knights are occupied with training duties for the day. Leonard thanks him once more for the advice, though internally he is surprised that the incident escalated so dramatically. At the same time, he realizes this situation works in his favor, as he can now move more freely without interference. With all knights currently accounted for, encountering anyone while disguised as Hayden would cause serious complications. Because of this, he decides to make use of the werewolf's hide as a precautionary measure. Standing at the edge of the cliff, he calmly declares that it is finally time to explore the Owl Plains. As he looks around, he finds the area unnaturally quiet, yet he can still sense monsters observing him from afar. Their killing intent is clear, but none of them makes a move, leaving him puzzled. Leonard concludes that they are either acting cautiously or have completely lost their rational thinking. This realization leaves him disappointed, as he starts to feel the expedition may have been pointless. At that moment, a huge shadow descends from the sky, revealing a massive owl-like creature. Removing his hood, the protagonist asks whether the owlbear is the first opponent of the day. For him, the timing is ideal, since he has been eager to test his newly gained power. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the island, a group struggles toward the shore. Their leader announces that they have already lost 2 members to the sea. Behaving like a cult preacher, he declares that their deaths should be seen as a lesson in sacrifice and devotion. The man is revealed to be a ruthless cult follower known as Kyrgis's Fifth Shadow. He motivates the group, insisting their comrades did not die in vain and ordering them to complete the mission at any cost. The Fifth Shadow commands them to capture the Cardenas newcomer alive and uncover the secret of his bloodline. As they disperse, he gives a final order to show no mercy, even if the target is only a child, labeling Cardenas as purely evil. A few moments later, one of the intruders becomes separated from his group. He is immediately overwhelmed by the number of rank monsters roaming the island. Being only a low-ranked fighter, engaging them is not an option, forcing him to flee. He becomes increasingly unsettled, questioning why Cardenas would bring newcomers to such a dangerous place. After some time, he manages to steady himself and continues deeper toward the center. Strangely enough, the monsters grow weaker the further he advances, leading him to suspect that someone has already been clearing the area. Soon after, he spots an owlbear and believes he can handle it at least. But the moment he climbs onto it, he notices that the creature is already dead, which immediately puts him on alert as he nervously scans the area. After quickly checking his surroundings, he realizes there is more than one corpse present, indicating that whoever is responsible is highly skilled. Suddenly, a rock flies toward him from nowhere, but he manages to react in time and cuts it in half, demanding the attacker reveal themselves. On cue, the protagonist steps forward and claims those words as his own. Before the cultist can process the situation, Leonard instantly closes the distance and delivers a precise strike to his neck, then calmly asks for his identity. He even taunts him, questioning whether he has already forgotten how to speak, and states that he will extract every piece of information from him. The cultist panics immediately and swings his sword in a chaotic manner. The protagonist steps back, carefully reading the killing intent behind the attack, and quickly realizes that the opponent is fighting seriously. This only increases the cultist's panic, as he struggles to accept that a kid is effortlessly evading his strikes. Leonard then slips behind him and launches a surprise counterattack, but his blade fails to penetrate the armor. He pauses briefly, suspecting it might be a magical artifact. Sensing danger, he quickly withdraws, just as a massive snake-like construct manifests around the cultist. The man cannot believe he is forced to reveal a hidden technique against someone like this. The protagonist asks whether that is meant to be some kind of assassination skill, then immediately insults him for his mediocre swordsmanship while closing the distance once again. Both of them clash blades once more, while Leonard continues mocking him, pointing out that the opponent has clearly never faced a real strong fighter. The cultist then smirks and summons chains that coil tightly around the protagonist's sword. Internally, the thug tries to maintain confidence, mocking him for losing his weapon, but his expression quickly shifts to fear. The protagonist remains completely unfazed as he draws his arm back and clenches his fist. He ridicules the cultist for assuming a sword is necessary to fight, and then delivers a powerful punch that sends the man flying. The low-ranked fighter is stunned that the boy reacts so swiftly and effectively in an instant, his final thought being disbelief at what kind of bloodline produces such children before losing consciousness. That night, Leonard confronts the cultist and declares that he will decide whether he lives or dies. The thug calls him a devil and a coward for relying on overwhelming bloodline power. This surprises the protagonist, who responds that the cultist himself has been using artifacts and calls him foolish. The cultist refuses to accept this, insisting that no method is unfair when fighting Cardenas' enemies. Leonard raises his fist again, silencing him, after which the cultist begs for a quick death. However, the protagonist coldly replies that such a choice is not his to make. The cultist becomes desperate, swearing he will reveal nothing even at the cost of his life, while insulting him as someone with impure blood. This remark causes the protagonist to pause as he asks whether the man is referring to the Cardenas bloodline. The cultist claims that the blood running through his veins is sinful. He declares that all descendants of Cardenas are not human, and that this time an abomination with monstrous strength has emerged from that cursed lineage. Leonard smiles and remarks that the man certainly knows a great deal, suggesting he would not mind extracting more information from him. The captive prisoner continues his hostile chatter, questioning why the Cardenas family is so heavily protected, to the point that even branch families are not allowed to operate outside the country's internal structure. It is evident, in his view, that the bloodline hides significant secrets. If their supposed progenitor was truly as heroic and orthodox as the legends claim, there would be no reason for concealment. Leonard listens to the hostile rant with only half interest. He recognizes that the man is driven by envy of his family's power and prosperity, to the extent that he abandoned knightly honor to abduct a child. If he truly intended fair combat, he would not have relied on restrictive devices from the start. Leonard states firmly that even if such people uncover the secrets of Cardenas, nothing will change. Those third-rate inhabitants of the frontier, lacking both strength and honor, will always remain insignificant. He adds that, with how far they have fallen, it is questionable whether they can even face their own ancestors. The prisoner reacts angrily to the accurate insults. From this response, Leonard concludes that the man originates from the kingdom of Kyrgyz. When the mind is unsettled, even simple precautions are often overlooked. Leonard forcefully disrupts the prisoner's mana circuits. The man will die soon, but there is still enough time to extract useful information. Kyrgyz is a small to medium kingdom located in the western region of the continent. It was once known as the Holy Land of Knights until several centuries ago, when the Cardenas lineage emerged. The Knights of Kyrgyz Kingdom suffered a decisive defeat at the hands of the Red Dragon Knights, a single night of destruction that erased their legacy from history. Cardenas later became known as the Holy Land of Aspiring Knights. According to the information, these infiltrators entered Kalabogos with the intent to target Cardenas and restore their lost reputation. Their goal is to investigate the secrets of the family's bloodline. In a sense, this objective overlaps with Leonard's own curiosity. The primary concern, however, is the presence of a transcendent realm expert leading the operation. This far exceeds what Leonard can handle alone. The most reasonable course of action would be to report this to Sir Bradley. The Shadow Knights of Kyrgyz cannot be underestimated. Most knights stationed on this island are still inexperienced apprentices with little real combat experience. The situation is far too dangerous to handle casually. After extracting every last piece of information from the prisoner known as the 30th Shadow, Leonard cuts his throat, eliminating any remaining loose ends. He applies just enough force to mimic traces of a swordmaster level technique in the process. He feels slightly disappointed that he could only replicate a fraction of that level of power, but concludes it is sufficient to send a clear warning. Of course, he takes all the magic tools from the 30th Shadow's body before carrying the corpse over his shoulder. The dead have no objections. The main Cardenas forces are stationed near the marsh, just outside the Troll's Cave. After a long day of work, Leonard's seniors finally get a chance to rest and hope nothing further happens. The exhaustion of the day makes them pray for peace, but that prayer ends up becoming a bad omen. Hayden notices a disturbing sight near a tree. It is the mutilated body of the 30th Shadow. The group immediately contacts Sir Bradley. Upon inspecting the corpse, the senior knight's eyes widen after detecting traces of swordmaster-level energy. There is no doubt the intruder was killed using an aura blade, a technique exclusive to swordmasters. Inside the dead man's belongings, they find a letter explaining the situation. It is a confession written in guilt for attacking children. The document reveals that the Shadow Knights of Kyrgyz have infiltrated Kalabagos. A group of veterans led by a transcendent realm expert is moving toward the island's center to capture apprentice knights. Sir Bradley quickly formulates a response plan to prevent disaster, gathering everyone for safety as possible, but the enemy leader remains a critical threat regardless. The senior knight orders Ian to raise the alarm for an emergency assembly. When the warning signal echoes across the island, all knights rush toward the meeting point. Leonard quietly feels satisfied that Sir Bradley correctly interpreted his gruesome art project. Once everyone is assembled, Bradley announces that this is not a drill. Intruders have entered the island, and their combat strength is significant. The enemy consists of 30 knights above the 8th stage of the external Force realm. Among them is a single transcendent Swordmaster-level combatant. As members of Cardenas, they are expected to understand how dangerous such an opponent is. He tells them to imagine facing someone like Commander Fabian of the Young Dragon Knights. Swordmasters are classified as walking catastrophes. Regardless of numbers, they can cut through entire forces with ease. Sir Bradley gives the option to activate the spatial gate immediately and retreat for safety, abandon the island, or wait for reinforcements from the family. Alternatively, they could stand their ground and face the enemy directly. The decision is entirely theirs. From Leonard's perspective, this situation represents a valuable training opportunity for inexperienced apprentice knights, provided they survive. If they choose to retreat out of fear, no one will hold it against them. Much to his surprise, the senior trio consisting of Ian, Hayden, and Gale are the first to step forward and volunteer to fight the intruders. Choosing to draw a sword in the face of imminent danger is no simple act. Leonard finds himself gaining a new level of respect for the three. After their declaration, the remaining Calabagos knights also raise their swords in agreement. Sir Bradley expresses satisfaction at their resolve. Still, he submits a reinforcement request to Commander Fabian. The coming days will be deadly, and they must be prepared. Leonard Cardenas is considered too valuable a talent, so he is evacuated as a protected asset, which works in his favor. This allows him to return to the earthen pit he dug near his sleeping quarters and inspect the magic tools he obtained from his first target. Most of the items are damaged, but the enchanted ring appears functional. When he puts it on, it activates a haste spell, though it is abruptly interrupted. The ring's enchantment collapses, and the gemstone core disintegrates into dust. His own heart seems to have blocked the external mana flow. If that is the case, none of the other magic tools may function either. The only usable item might be the Shadow Knight's signaling device. Having already learned its operation through interrogation, he sees no difficulty in using it. Could be used to track enemies and execute surprise attacks. If discovered, it might even serve as a decoy. The only true threat to his life is a swordmaster. It is time to begin causing disruption. Leonard sprints through the forest, which has served as his training ground for the past few months. Finally, he detects a signal requesting reinforcements. It is reasonable to assume that a swordmaster would not be the one calling for assistance. He accepts the call and moves toward its origin, keeping his cover intact. This presents an ideal chance to eliminate weakened enemies. The SOS signal originates from Lion's Ravine. There, several Shadow Knights are being torn apart by a monstrous creature of the island, while still shamelessly blaming Cardenas for their situation. They were completely unprepared for an A-rank manticore in this hostile environment. Even as experienced fighters, the beast far exceeds their capabilities. The manticore itself is especially dangerous, with its tail attacks being the primary threat. It is fast, powerful, and capable of attacking multiple targets at once. The Shadow Knights belatedly realize they should have prioritized retreat and mission objectives instead of engaging the monster. When their distress signal is answered, they regain some confidence. They convince themselves that an A-rank beast can be defeated once reinforcements arrive. However, the one who arrives brings not salvation, but despair. Leonard enters the battlefield and cuts down 3 incapacitated Shadow Knights in a single motion. Their communication signal appears to have been compromised. When questioned about it, Leonard mockingly replies that he simply provoked the 30th Shadow slightly, and the man revealed everything. He adds that the people from Kyrgyz are truly pathetic. Enraged, the Shadow Knights abandon caution and turn on the blonde boy instead, once again proving how easily they can be manipulated by anger. They allow emotion to cloud their judgment. Driven by vengeance for their fallen comrades, the so-called veterans charge toward the Cardenas target without restraint. Halfway through their assault, they are struck down one after another. Leonard does not move at all, letting the monster handle the situation. The manticore continues to reap lives across the battlefield. It has the body of a lion, a serpent-like tail, and a head resembling that of a goblin or troll. Manticores are known as powerful A-rank monsters. Leonard has heard that their strength is often judged by the form of their head. This one, however, possesses a human face. After the Shadow Knight is eliminated, the manticore shifts its focus toward the young intruder. Leonard is slightly surprised when the beast speaks fluently in human language. The manticore takes one look at him and turns away, accepting that if a fight breaks out, he would likely lose. A monster capable of accurately assessing an opponent's strength is rare. However, the manticore believes Leonard will not die easily and only needs to stall until someone arrives. Someone far beyond normal limits. Leonard infers that the creature is referring to the leader of the Shadow Knights, known as the Fifth Shadow. That individual is significantly more dangerous than all others who landed on the island combined. Even Leonard understands that he cannot win at his current level. If the manticore's assessment is correct, remaining in this open area for too long is dangerous. Still, he refuses to trust the words of a strange beast. Since he rejects the warning, the manticore challenges him to fight head-on. Considering his priorities, Leonard chooses to turn away and spare the creature for now. After taking a few steps away from the battlefield, the cunning beast insults him and immediately launches a full attack using its spiked tails. Leonard was expecting this from the beginning. He draws his sword and throws it forward. The first strike targets the manticore's distorted human face. The blade pierces the eye, causing the beast to howl in pain. As it attempts to counterattack with its deadly tails, Leonard has already closed the distance. The second strike targets the lungs, making breathing difficult. The third and final strike pierces the heart, ending the life of the aberrant creature. As the manticore warned, Leonard cannot linger for long. After 3 strikes, he withdraws from the area. On his way out, the signaling device activates with another urgent transmission. Judging by the intensity of the signal, the fifth shadow is approaching. Without hesitation, he discards the device. The signal barely hits the ground before a cloaked man wielding a sword descends and catches it mid-air. Fifth shadow clicks his tongue in frustration. He arrived too late. Had he been even a moment earlier, the situation might have been reversed. The instinct of a swordmaster activates as he detects movement at a distance. He unleashes a wide-range sword strike that nearly reaches Leonard, who is concealed nearby. The man must have sensed his hidden presence. If he remains still, he risks being discovered and caught in the attack's radius. Fortunately, he relies on a skill he developed earlier, the ability to dig underground. Fifth shadow continues his uncontrolled assault while the hidden target escapes beneath the earth. It is unusual for him to misjudge a situation like this. His instincts feel dull, as the plan is already deviating further than expected. He collects the blades of his fallen comrades and offers a brief prayer for their rest before leaving. He considers the mission complete and moves on. After creating enough distance, Leonard resurfaces in the middle of a forest. By coincidence, he arrives at the remains of another battlefield. A single Cardenas knight is still alive there, but barely. He had arrived too late. The man is covered in blood and severely injured, missing part of his skull. Death is imminent. Before passing, he explains what occurred. Earlier that day, 45 intermediate knights were wiped out instantly. The massacre was carried out by a single swordmaster. All apprentice knights were captured and restrained, including Leonard's seniors, Hayden, Ian, and Gale. It remains unclear how the Shadow Knights breached Cardenas' defenses while transporting hostages. At the beginning, their objective was to capture living test subjects. The children needed to remain unharmed until transportation was complete. As far as Leonard could deduce, there was only one method capable of achieving such a large-scale extraction: mass teleportation. They must have prepared a magic circle capable of moving a large number of people simultaneously to a single destination. The enemy had already completed the first stage of their plan. To transport so many individuals at once, they required a vast, predictable destination area. He asks the dying knight where Sir Bradley is. At present, he is searching the region with the remaining forces. Leonard extracts all necessary information from the severely injured knight. It is time to end his suffering. He channels a small amount of aura into his hand and pierces the man's heart, killing him instantly. If Sir Bradley is still conducting a search, then his assumptions are likely incorrect. Leonard must find a way to inform him of the situation, or Cardenas will suffer a devastating defeat. He assumes that advice from a trainee would carry little authority. A more creative approach is required, so he discards his clothing and dons an enemy uniform. Sir Bradley is currently leading a group of knights as they search the forest without direction. Seeing no sign of the Shadow Knights, he begins to believe the enemy has retreated, abandoning their pride as warriors. Suddenly, a foreign presence breaks through their formation. A figure wearing a cloak and mask appears, carrying the corpse of a Cardenas knight. Bradley immediately recognizes the movement technique as one associated with Kyrgyz. Unbeknownst to them, the figure beneath the mask is Leonard Cardenas. Sir Bradley orders his men to eliminate the intruder, bringing them back to full alert. Leonard's plan proceeds as intended, as the knights begin pursuing him. Ranged attacks in the form of thrown blades prove somewhat troublesome, but he evades them mid-air with ease, even using some of the weapons as stepping points to extend his movement. Eventually, he outruns most of the intermediate knights. Only Sir Bradley is fast enough to keep up with him. He has already achieved his objective. He has used himself as bait to guide Bradley toward the intended location. Sir Bradley attempts to cut him down, but the attack is narrowly avoided. Consumed by pursuit, Bradley fails to realize he has already reached the island's coastline. With the masked figure gone and the knight's corpse left behind, Leonard considers his task complete. Sir Bradley must survive what is about to unfold. The true enemy will arrive shortly. Fifth Shadow detects Bradley's movements and appears to investigate. He looks at the Cardenas knight with clear disdain. Bradley quickly understands understands that this is the real opponent, the mastermind behind the entire operation. Fifth Shadow describes the events as merely the first step toward a larger achievement. Bradley finds the justification for mass kidnapping unacceptable. He takes a combat stance while Fifth Shadow draws a dark green sword. A signal is given to the surrounding forces, and an enormous surge of mana rises into the sky. Bradley immediately recognizes it as a mass teleportation spell. Fifth Shadow confirms that there are 15 minutes remaining until full activation, and in the meantime, he intends to deal with Bradley personally. From his overwhelming aura alone, Bradley is completely suppressed. Nearby, Leonard observes the situation, trusting that his superior can endure long enough. At the same time, he moves to rescue the captured apprentice knights. To his surprise, infiltrating the Kyrgyz encampment proves unexpectedly simple. Even while masking his presence, the enemy soldiers fail to notice him entirely. With their leader engaged elsewhere, their vigilance has dropped, creating an opening for infiltration. As he enters the tent holding the prisoners, he systematically breaks their restraints one by one. The apprentices are confused to see someone in Kyrgyz uniform assisting them. Leonard does not have the time or obligation to provide any explanation. He simply orders them to escape immediately. After a brief moment of hesitation, the apprentices quickly recover, bow to him, and express their gratitude to the mysterious figure. With the primary objective of freeing his comrades completed, Leonard decides it is time for some real combat practice. Having resolved the hostage situation, he turns his attention to eliminating the remaining enemies. Still wearing the Kyrgyz uniform, he launches a surprise assault behind enemy lines. Proves highly effective. He cuts through opponents, draws blood, and takes lives without hesitation or delay. He systematically destroys an entire military camp with a calm expression. Not far from the encampment, Sir Bradley continues to struggle against Fifth Shadow. The Swordmaster is merely toying with him. He remains unsatisfied, though eliminating the Cardenas dog is enough entertainment for the moment. Once bored of the fight, he declares confidently that Kyrgyz will once again rise to the pinnacle of swordsmanship in the near future. After speaking, he notices something unusual. The one disrupting his plans is nearby. He ignores the heavily injured Bradley and returns to the camp. Upon arrival, he dives down like a meteor directly toward Leonard's position. The attack is loud and highly predictable. Leonard manages to evade the impact, but the air pressure strips away his mask. Fifth Shadow expresses disappointment upon realizing that the obstacle in his path is nothing more than a boy. In response, he vows to personally eliminate this specific target in honor of his fallen comrades. The mass teleportation circle still hovers above the encampment, but the intended victims are either dead or have escaped. Fifth Shadow briefly left the battlefield to deal with what he considered a minor threat, only to return and find his entire force destroyed and his plan in ruins. Refusing to accept responsibility, he blames everything on the so-called Devil of Cardenas standing before him. Leonard, meanwhile, focuses solely on survival. This opponent is on an entirely different level compared to anyone he has faced so far. Fifth Shadow's emotionally driven strike collides with his blade, and he is shocked when the blonde boy successfully blocks the attack completely. The young fighter is even capable of manifesting his own aura blade. Leonard counters the attack and sends the man flying backward. At his current level, he can only sustain his aura state for about 3 minutes. Recognizing him as a genuine threat, Fifth Shadow summons a toxic aura blade. The man loses his composure, and the battle has barely begun. His movements become noticeably less precise, creating openings for Leonard to exploit. Moving in while evading attacks like a stalking predator is something he excels at. Unbeknownst to him, Fifth Shadow's objective is not to kill immediately, but to injure him even slightly. The blade is coated with a lethal venom. Even a single drop is enough to kill an ordinary person. It reaches the heart within seconds, completely severing mana circulation and stopping vital functions, followed by a painful death. Despite the detailed explanation of its effects, Leonard remains unfazed. He uses the distraction to seize the initiative and counterattack. When the toxin reaches his heart, it is completely neutralized by the overwhelming mana protecting his body. Fifth Shadow did not anticipate such an outcome. In truth, neither did Leonard, as he was unaware his heart possessed innate resistance to poison. Despite his surprise, he maintains composure and acts as if the toxin had no effect from the beginning. Driven further into frustration, Fifth Shadow reshapes his aura into snake-like constructs. He unleashes a swarm of serpentine manifestations toward the boy, clearly pushing himself to his limits. The man fights as though overwhelming his opponent with sheer volume of attacks will eventually land a hit. This reckless approach makes closing the distance more difficult, but the solution is already clear. His aura-infused sword slices through the snake constructs effortlessly and continues forward, piercing Fifth Shadow's shoulder. The man curses the boy in frustration frustration, realizing he has been completely outplayed. Cornered and pushed to his limits, Fifth Shadow abandons any concern for his own survival. He becomes determined to take the boy down even at the cost of his own life. Straining his mana further, he summons an even larger wave of snake constructs. His output reaches the absolute limit of human capability, showing full commitment to the fight. Although it appears to be a desperate all-out assault, Leonard recognizes it as a feint. He remains composed and quickly cuts down the surrounding snakes. Channeling his remaining aura into a single precise strike is the only viable option. The method requires full concentration, but it proves effective. After cutting through the swarm of giant serpents, he finally reaches the target. Moving in with extreme speed, he drives his blade into Fifth Shadow's abdomen but is thrown back by a sudden shockwave. The so-called Swordmaster was more deceptive than expected, having concealed a magic tool all along. He had deliberately acted emotional and careless to draw the boy in. Fifth Shadow insists that his chaotic aura attacks were always intended to lure him into close range. At such distance, he can fully exploit his superior level. Leonard's advantage may have finally been lost. As Fifth Shadow prepares to deliver the finishing strike, a familiar voice suddenly echoes from above. The hand that was moments away from taking the young prodigy's life is cleanly severed. Commander Fabian arrives just in time to rescue Leonard. Fifth Shadow shifts his attention to the newcomer, but he is clearly overwhelmed and suppressed. In the name of fallen comrades who suffered at the hands of this disgraceful enemy, Commander Fabian cuts off both of Fifth Shadow's legs. Leonard is freed from his grasp and immediately does what he does best, mocking the opponent in anger. With a sarcastic smile, he tells the courteous commander that it was careless not to notice who was approaching. Commander Fabian apologizes sincerely for arriving too late. He observes that Leonard has grown tremendously since their last meeting, despite the short time passed. Thanks to Leonard, Bradley was also saved. He lost a hand but survived. There are many questions for the young prodigy, but they must wait until he recovers. Looking at Leonard with a sense of pride and relief, Commander Fabian's contempt toward Fifth Shadow intensifies. The severely injured Swordmaster maintains himself in the air using aura despite his missing limbs. In a disturbed state of mind, he declares that the battle is not over. Commander Fabian senses the unnatural obsession driving him to destroy Cardenas, and resolves to end it immediately. Using every last reserve of his mana, Fifth Shadow bypasses the commander and lunges toward the exhausted Leonard. The man is determined to fulfill his vow to eliminate the boy, even at the cost of his life. In an instant, Leonard Cardenas is engulfed by the light of the massive magic circle above. Commander Fabian's expression darkens. He realizes he has been outmaneuvered and lowered his guard. He did not anticipate such a desperate tactic. Fifth Shadow has used the mass teleportation spell to abduct the boy. Because the activation was incomplete, the destination cannot be determined with certainty. Fabian, they conclude that they were foolish and that Leonard was lost because of their mistake. In frustration, they had already dealt with Fifth Shadow appropriately, cutting him down as if he were nothing more than meat. Sir Bradley believes that Fifth Shadow must have perceived Leonard as such a significant threat that he abandoned his own principles and acted irrationally. For someone who had only been an apprentice knight a few months earlier, the fact that he survived a battle against a transcendent realm swordmaster is almost unbelievable. As experienced veterans, Bradley and Fabian have witnessed many talented apprentices, yet Leonard's progression surpasses anything they have ever seen. He may very well become a new legend recorded in history. The first priority now is to request reinforcements from the main house and organize a search for him. Leonard must be found at all costs. Until then, all they can do is hope he survives. Unbeknownst to everyone, Leonard Cardenas has been randomly teleported into the middle of the ocean. He is heavily injured and would have drowned if not for a piece of wood keeping him afloat. After an unknown amount of time, he is eventually rescued by a passing ship. When Leonard regains consciousness, the smell of salt fills his senses, and he feels the rocking motion of the vessel beneath him. Upon opening his eyes, he is greeted by a calm voice belonging to a brown-haired woman sitting beside his bed. The woman has many questions, as she is expecting proper explanations from the person she rescued. She apologizes for speaking too much before introducing herself as Francis, captain of the Aquamarine. Leonard's head is still ringing, but he introduces himself and states his homeland as the Arcadia Empire. Hearing that he came from Arcadia surprises Francis greatly. When she asks how he ended up so far from a foreign land, he calmly recounts the events. The last thing he remembers is being caught in Fifth Shadow's chaotic spatial magic. Francis's sword-wielding attendant, Marion, joins the discussion and asks whether he is from the Cardenas family. Only members of that lineage are said to survive being distorted by spatial magic. She also notices his physique, which is trained far beyond what is expected for someone his age. No other explanation fits except that he belongs to the legendary clan. Leonard is surprised that his family name is recognized even across the sea. He asks whether his identity will cause trouble, and Marion looks toward her captain. If the Cardenas clan is tracking the young man, involving themselves would only bring complications. Before they can decide how to proceed, a crew member interrupts. A group of ruffians is causing trouble at the dock. The Luciano gang, led by the shameless Luciano Peterson in flip-flops, is causing chaos once again. This is the worst possible timing, as they appear to be deliberately targeting the day of an important meeting. Frances apologizes to Leonard, explaining she will not be able to show him around the port today. Leonard senses hostility in the atmosphere, as Frances is clearly troubled by the situation. She heads toward the wharf and allows him to leave once he has recovered. His clothes, sword, and spatial storage bag remain neatly placed beside his bed. Before leaving, Leonard asks Frances why she saved a stranger like him. The answer is simple. She helped him because he needed help. She refuses to turn her back on anyone. Her words are sincere and honorable, but now it seems she is the one in need of assistance. The ruffians begin stirring trouble as soon as the Aquamarine docks. At last, Marion and Captain Francis arrive to handle the situation. Luciano Peterson proves to be a thoroughly unpleasant man, backed by a group of lowlifes. He openly tells the women to smile more. Marion nearly cuts out his tongue on the spot. Luciano laughs off her threat and insists his business is with her captain, telling her that a dog should stay silent during conversation. He dares her to strike and accept the consequences. Although furious, Marion restrains herself. Luciano pushes past her and approaches Captain Francis directly. He leans in uncomfortably close, demanding the handover of the Aquamarine. The man claims that the magnificent ship is wasted on her, arguing that it is too valuable to remain in the possession of a fallen royal family. With her father gone, she no longer needs to cling to their former possessions. Francis firmly tells him to leave, making it clear she will never surrender the ship under any circumstances. Luciano quickly loses his patience. He warns Francis to reconsider and accept his so-called generous offer before he begins destroying things. Unfortunately for him, Leonard does more than just respond to the threat. He cleanly severs the man's arm. He then turns to Francis and casually asks whether he is allowed to kill him, stating he has no interest in dealing with such a nuisance. Captain Francis hesitates, then allows him to eliminate the henchman but orders him to spare Luciano's life. The thug watches his severed arm fall onto the dock and curses the blonde boy in anger. Humiliated and in pain, Luciano orders his men to kill everyone present. They immediately swarm Leonard. It is the worst decision they could have possibly made. Dual-wielding his swords, the reincarnation of the Sword Emperor tears through the group like a force of death. His movements are precise and efficient, eliminating them so quickly they barely register their own deaths before collapsing. The entire fight ends in less than a minute, leaving Marion and Captain Francis completely stunned. Before the trained guard can even raise her weapon, the situation is already over. This is the overwhelming power of Cardenas. Leonard grabs what remains of the troublemaker and forces him to kneel before Francis. In the chaos, Luciano even manages to reattach his arm. When asked how to deal with the main instigator, Marion and Francis are left uncertain. Although Luciano appears to be a worthless delinquent, he is in fact the illegitimate son of one of the highest authorities in Atlantis. This place, the Atlantis Maritime Union, is governed by the Union Council. Pablo L. Orlando Peterson, a powerful and influential figure, holds significant authority. One of the top 5 members of the Union Council in terms of influence. The man's illegitimate son proves to be more troublesome than Leonard initially assumed, as he has already become entangled in the situation. Leonard offers to act as Francis's bodyguard for the time being. He can remain by her side to resolve the matter while also gathering useful information. It feels like a simple seaside side job before returning home. After witnessing Leonard effortlessly eliminate an entire group of thugs and sever Luciano's arm, Captain Francis readily agrees to hire him as a bodyguard. They exchange a handshake, both anticipating a productive arrangement. Leonard, who had only just awakened, has already secured employment. Luciano attempts to crawl away like a worm, hoping to escape unnoticed. The trio begins considering how to handle him. He will need to be detained somewhere where he cannot cause further trouble. As long as he is not killed, his father is unlikely to intervene. The man has already abandoned responsibility for his illegitimate son. Pablo L. Orlando Peterson would likely turn a blind eye as long as the boy remains alive. Relieved that immediate danger has subsided, Francis leads the group into the coastal city with her new bodyguard following behind. Leonard observes the surroundings as he walks, taking in unfamiliar sights. Since he is technically employed under her, he considers addressing her as captain. It seems appropriate, though Francis prefers to be called Fran. The first time he uses her nickname, her cheeks noticeably redden and her heartbeat quickens, It appears that becoming familiar with the stranger she rescued from the sea is not unpleasant. Upon entering the city proper, Leonard is met with impressive displays of water-based magic everywhere. The scene is striking. He has never witnessed anything so refined back in Arcadia. Fran explains the basics of the trade city of Atlantis. The entire region places extreme value on appearances. While it may look extravagant on the surface, it is largely decorative. Nevertheless, it is effective, as many adventurers are drawn to the city by its flashy reputation. At the center of the city lies Bermuda, the administrative hub for all adventuring parties within Atlantis. Fran arrives at Bermuda's magical gate and confirms Aquamarine's party code, B07. The gate automatically verifies her identity and registers her as Captain Francis Lelvon Oceanus of Aquamarine. The party is instructed to proceed to Zephyrus Hall, a lounge designated for B-rank adventuring groups. Given how unfamiliar everything is to Leonard, he carefully follows his new employer. Inside Zephyrus Hall, the interior proves even more luxurious than the gate area. He begins to realize he may have underestimated the status of a B-rank party. Access to such an upscale facility suggests Aquamarine is a far more significant organization than he initially believed. At the reception desk stands a cheerful staff member named Clara, responsible for managing Zephyrus Hall. She assists with updating the party registration. With Leonard joining, Aquamarine's official member count rises to 3. His assumption of a large organization quickly fades. Clara asks about his combat specialization in order to evaluate the party's updated capabilities. Before Leonard can respond, a drunken swordsman interrupts and tells Clara not to waste time on the interview. He claims Leonard is clearly just Fran's personal distraction. Unwilling to tolerate disrespect toward his captain, Leonard requests permission from Fran to handle the situation. She declines, stating she is already accustomed to such behavior. Despite this, the drunkard continues insulting him, calling him a useless addition meant only to inflate numbers. Eventually pushed too far, Leonard knocks the man's blade from his hand. The drunkard is left defenseless and frozen in shock. For a moment, it feels as if his life has ended, but Leonard stops his sword mere inches from a fatal strike inside the luxurious hall. This demonstration is sufficient for Clara to form a basic assessment for official records. When asked about his origin, Leonard pauses to consider his answer carefully. Based on Marion's reaction aboard the ship, revealing his Arcadian origin may not be wise for now. Keeping silent would also create its own complications. So he claims he comes from the Kingdom of Courageous, the first nation that comes to mind. Clara processes the information and completes his registration with Aquamarine without issue. Fran attempts to conceal it, but she is clearly excited about the new addition to her team. Leonard notices her effort to suppress her emotions, and Fran quietly laments the loss of her dignity as a captain. Forcing herself into a composed and authoritative posture, she formally welcomes him into the party. With guild matters settled, Leonard is free to explore the city at his leisure. Although the captain still seems inexperienced in some ways, he finds himself looking forward to working under her. Before leaving to explore Atlantis, Leonard decides to request a favor from his employer. As expected, Fran agrees and directs him to another building in the city. Inside, a soft, alluring voice greets him from behind a door. The room belongs to a striking woman with long flowing brown hair and an imposing presence. At first glance, it is clear to her that he is not a mage, yet Fran has asked her to teach Leonard everything about magic. She offers him a drink while discussing his situation. He explains only enough about being caught in spatial magic to spark her curiosity about countermeasures. His main limitation is his lack of understanding of magic itself. Esther, a fourth circle mage from the Atlantis Magic Tower, listens carefully. She quickly realizes that Leonard is not simply someone attempting to become a magic swordsman. According to her, the most effective way to learn magic is through gradual adaptation. She proposes a method even a swordsman can handle. Most users typically increase their mana capacity using spirit stones. The same principle applies to magic. To acclimate the body to arcane energy, he can absorb a spirit stone inscribed with a magic circuit. Leonard remains skeptical of the method. He did not come here intending to dedicate himself to magic or anything of the sort. Esther reassures him that unless he has an unusually abnormal constitution, her method is the quickest and simplest way to grasp the fundamentals directly. She also considers it her responsibility to guide him as a senior member of Aquamarine. If she does not help Leonard, she fears the other women will storm her residence again and demand explanations. Under normal circumstances, anyone should be able to absorb a spirit stone circuit without difficulty, but Leonard Cardenas is far from normal. From his strained expression, it is clear that something has gone wrong. Fragments of translucent mana begin to spread throughout the room. The ground trembles and the air becomes saturated with magic. This process is not not usually this intense. Fortunately, the disturbance eventually stabilizes after a short while. Esther checks on the exhausted Leonard. Aside from heavy breathing and lingering discomfort, he appears mostly unharmed. The circuit exposure seems to have triggered something within him. The Cardenas bloodline may possess talent beyond swordsmanship alone. After analyzing his condition, Esther concludes that he has effectively rewritten the entire spell engraved within the spirit stone as though the original was incorrect. Once he regains his composure, he explains that he altered one of the spell circuits to suit his interpretation. The engraved spell was a simple magic missile. It was intended to be a basic, straightforward spell with no room for modification. Esther's assumption proves incorrect. Rather than explain, Leonard demonstrates his modified magic missile. In truth, he considered the original spell inefficient and flawed. After adjusting the structure, he reshaped the projectile into a dagger form. Esther is genuinely shocked. Altering the fundamental structure of even a basic spell is beyond what most fourth circle mages can accomplish, yet he modified several at once. Feeling more confident and curious, he asks Esther to show him her own circuits for inspection. She does not object, though she is puzzled by his request. Leonard simply explains that he can identify areas that could be improved. After their extended circuit examination, Leonard and Esther proceed to the towering Atlantis Magic Tower. Inside the highest office on the uppermost floor, a man is suspended in midair, manipulating dozens of documents simultaneously as they float around him, demonstrating his control and authority. The interruption of his work by unexpected visitors clearly displeases him. Jack Russell, chief elder of the Atlantis Magic Tower and a seventh circle mage, is an extremely busy individual with little patience for distractions. As his disciple, Esther casually ignores her master's irritation while Leonard politely introduces himself. Since outsiders are rarely permitted inside the tower, Jack demands an explanation for the stranger's presence in his office. Esther happily announces that she has finally broken through to the fifth circle. The chief elder is surprised, as she had been stuck at the fourth circle for years. To confirm her advancement, Esther casts a fire spell. The temperature in the room rises sharply as she produces a refined version of a fireball. Proudly, she explains that she has learned to reshape her magic according to her will. By compressing and rotating flames into a disc, she maximizes the spell's destructive efficiency. She credits Leonard for her breakthrough, stating that he helped correct her flawed circuits and offered guidance. While she continues demonstrating her control, Leonard calmly advises her not to use unstable fire magic indoors. Esther, excited to impress her master, becomes overconfident. Her control begins to slip. She apologizes to her master while inadvertently sending the spinning flame disc toward him. Instead of reacting with alarm, the chief elder focuses his attention on the boy who has demonstrated an ability to approach transformation techniques associated with sixth circle mages. With a simple gesture, he disperses Esther's spell effortlessly. To him, the ability to unconsciously transcend magical boundaries is something that can only arise from true enlightenment. Leonard may not realize it, but he has provided Esther with a breakthrough she may never fully repay. Esther likely understands this significance, which is why she brought him before her master. Without hesitation, Chief Elder Jack Russell offers to take Leonard in as his direct disciple. For an aspiring mage, this is an exceptional opportunity. Leonard politely declines, stating that he has already chosen the path of the sword. Jack understood that it was unwise to discourage someone who responds with such immediate conviction. Still, he felt a trace of disappointment. In that case, he decided to grant Leonard the same level of authority as Esther without any conditions attached. This included unrestricted access to the tower, its knowledge, magical tools, and resources. Even so, all of it could not compare to the personal guidance of a seventh circle mage. He also promised to maintain a favorable relationship with the Aquamarine Guild moving forward. Leonard was relieved that he was not being forced into anything against his will. He expressed gratitude toward the chief elder and promised to visit in the future. Establishing ties with the Magic Tower would undoubtedly benefit their small party. Upon returning to Bermuda's Zephyrus Hall to report to the captain, he was met with an enthusiastic reaction. Fran could hardly believe that the new recruit had brought them such fortune so quickly. The Magic Tower was a major organization comparable to Bermuda and the Union Council, making this connection extremely valuable. Changing the topic, Leonard asks Fran about the stacks of paperwork on the table. The documents contain lists of potential recruits she hopes to bring into the guild, as expansion requires more personnel. Without their ship, they would not have reached B rank status in the first place. Leonard asks whether they are seeking stronger members to fill the roster. Naturally, Captain Fran prefers capable and reliable allies. He points out that a promising candidate is currently nearby. A man is suspended from the ceiling, held in place by a single arrow. He shouts insults at the so-called half-elf woman who has humiliated him in this position. Unmoved by the abuse, the one-eyed Ninian watches him coldly. Frustrated that a single shot was not enough, Ninian unleashes a barrage of arrows, further intimidating the restrained man. The man is fortunate that this occurred inside Bermuda. As the commotion draws attention, several other individuals approach Ninian. They surround her and question whether her salary could cover any penalty fees for her behavior. Their true intent is to recruit her into the Santa Maria and secure enough money to pay her sister's ransom. Leonard intervenes, stepping in as a so-called white knight to stop the Santa Maria group from harassing the half-elf. Since words were clearly ineffective, he releases a single arrow with overwhelming force. Both Ninian and the Santa Maria members are stunned by the sudden burst of power. Recovering slightly, one-eyed Ninian asks who he is. Leonard introduces himself along with the Aquamarine Guild. The bow he used was borrowed from Clara, who is currently trembling behind the reception desk. After the disturbance, Leonard formally invites Ninian to join their party, stating she would benefit from better company. Ninian, however, is barely paying attention. She is still mentally replaying his shot. It surpasses her own archery by a wide margin, which is only based on imitation of spirit arts. She begins to consider that he might be able to teach her something. The Santa Maria members grow irritated and mock Aquamarine as a failing guild. They warn Ninian not to align herself with a sinking ship while promoting their own Santa Maria guild. One bald thug is about to mention their captain when another bald man abruptly silences him. Scarred, completely bald, and marked with a single golden tooth, Captain Christopher Conrad of Santa Maria makes it clear that he does not require introductions from subordinates. The previously arrogant goons immediately switch to obedient silence. Leonard's quick assessment suggests Christopher Conrad appears brutish, but is actually on the edge of the transcendent realm. In a direct confrontation, he would be heavily disadvantaged. Even so, Leonard refuses to lose a valuable talent like Ninian to someone like him. If necessary, he is prepared to fight. Meanwhile, Ninian recalls how she once felt uneasy when her younger sister called her Big Sis due to her half-elf heritage. Her younger sister Vivian, unlike her, is a spiritist with extraordinary talent for her age. Despite everything, she was Ninian's only family and closest companion. Their peaceful life was destroyed in an instant. Ninian lost one eye during a violent ambush after their hidden elf settlement was discovered. Vivian was captured and in desperation managed to send a distress signal to her older sister.